Welcome to Digital Hospitality. I am your host, Sean Walchef. This is a Cali BBQ Media production. Today we are coming to you live from San Marcos at My Yard Live with the two co-founders, Mark and Jamie. So we've got a very special episode because I've met these guys 3 times in real life. We've communicated for multiple years as they've opened this business, but to be here now in San Marcos, I know the venue's closed because it's a Tuesday, but I came up here because I'm very excited that we're gonna have a family celebration coming up, and remembering that you guys were on Behind the Smoke, episode 86, back above the butcher shop with Derek Marceau, myself.
Yeah.
It was before you guys opened up this business. You were telling us we're gonna raise $2.7 million. We're gonna open up this incredible live venue, community feel, family feel, incredible food, incredible brewery, and you did it. You actually did it. You're living the dream. Now we're up here. I can't wait to have our family celebration, and I can't wait to learn about what you guys have been up to. It's been a tough time, but welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. And when we first met, our first meeting was with James Langley.
That's correct.
And we went there for an investor meeting. We were introduced to James, and we walked in, and Sean was sitting there. I think for maybe some of the same reasons at the time, I'm not sure, but and we met there. And even before we were on the podcast, that was just after Mark and I were in his sunroom in OB drinking beers, writing on a vision board.
Yeah.
That's incredible. What year was that? When was this vision board?
17?
2017.
17, yeah.
2017.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like when we go back and look at what we put on paper,
Yeah.
it literally, like, we almost nailed exactly what our vision was. You know, we wrote out this vision scope, and you go back and you revisit exactly what we, what our plan was, what kind of, elements we wanted in the space and everything. We pretty much hit it all.
I mean, it's incredible for me. I mean, I have hair standing up on my arm because literally why we started this podcast, why we share the content that we share is we want to be inspired by people that are playing the game within the game. There's people that want to do, and there's people that actually do. You guys had a dream, you had a vision. The first time I met with you was with James Langley. We were sitting down at one of actually his brewery, at his brewery in downtown, and you were resident brewery, and you're sitting there selling this vision, that you're trying to raise $2.7 million, which is a significant raise to pull off this huge dream that you had. But to go from that to where you guys came to Behind the Smoke, pre-opening, to actually come here to see what you've built, it's absolutely incredible.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, it must be hard to see how far you've come when you live in the wheat. It's hard to see the forest when you live in the trees.
Yeah, and especially what's happened over the last 2 years. So we were open for 9 months, right? So we had July 2019, July 1st, right? Cash registers
July
were
1st.
on, and 9 months later, we were cruising. We were on our way, and good, bad, and indifferent. We, like everybody else, you open up and you have things that you hit on the head, and you have things that you want to improve, and we had all those. But 9 months later, we were looking at March 16th. It was St. Patrick's Day, 2017, and I remember standing right here with everybody and going, "Holy shit, we're in it.
Yep.
We're in shut down." And so it was 9 months. So to be here still, is a blessing. It's an honor. It's, I think, a testament to beyond Mark and I. It's a testament to the scope and the vision and the community and the neighborhood and people's staff and everybody who's been supporting.
So I mean, those are the things that we like to talk about on the podcast, the things that move people forward, someone that's listening, about the perseverance. What did you do during COVID that set you apart, that allowed you to maintain revenue, to stay open, to be where we are right now? Because right now is an exciting time because people want things. Like people like me, I want a place where I can bring my kids. I mean, when we had you on the podcast, I hadn't even had my daughter yet. So now I have a 2-year-old daughter. I have a 4-year-old son. And where do I want to go to make it easy on my family, to make it fun for my family? You guys built that. Literally, I will drive from East Lake all the way to San Marcos because of what you've built, which is super exciting. How did you maintain what you've built through the pandemic?
Well, I mean, first, like a lot of businesses, who knew that we'd be adding to our resume raising money from the government.
This is true, right? That is. Thank you for pointing that out, because we did that as well.
Yeah,
100%.
so that obviously played a big role for it, because
Yes.
it allowed us to retain our staff. We weren't, obviously, like every other restaurant, we weren't seeing, well, first of all, we were shut, 6 months out of that year? And then second,
So completely shut, no delivery.
yeah, completely shut.
No alcohol to go.
We did the delivery. We did do delivery, but that was never our main gig. It was always the on-site experience.
Yep.
So, but the times that we were open, obviously that funding helped, because it allowed us to retain our staff, and that staff that we hired in March of 19, right, most of them are still with us. So I think a lot of the success was our staff, and also the fact that we've, when you look around here, we have 7,000 square feet of outdoor space. So we weren't having to build out decks or anything like that.
True.
All we did was pivot, move most of our seating to the outside. So that was definitely helpful.
What's the total square footage of the space?
Total is like 17.5.
17.5,
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And I think too, we, like everybody did with the mandates and the guidelines and personal safety and the safety of the community and the whole thing, we felt a responsibility here, because we are a family space, we are a community space, that we always were, I think, ahead of the game in safety, what's kind of good for not only the business and keeping our doors open, because that's, long-term sustainability is huge, but also like what's good for the community and how's that going to pay off in the future, where somebody came here during the pandemic, the tables were spaced, they were outside, we're open air. We actually switched opposite from a lot of people. We were fast casual when we started up, so order at the counter, grab a number, go down, we'll run and get your food. We actually switched during the pandemic to a full service restaurant.
Interesting.
And everybody we talked to says, wow, you guys did the complete opposite of everybody. Everybody is trying to, save money, do things more efficient, the whole thing. And we were trying to do that too. But we looked at it and we said, what's going to make the neighborhood, what's going to make the folks more comfortable? Is it standing in a line, waiting, crowds, the whole thing? We said, no, it's sitting down, having your space, having your pod, having your family, having your community. And to the extent that we actually shut down a few months where we could have been open. And we did so, again, not only for the sustainability of the business, but safety of the staff and what was happening during that time. And I think that's paid off in the long run.
I love to talk more about that. As anyone that listens to this podcast knows, that we are heavily invested in technology. The podcast is called Digital Hospitality. We believe all businesses need to be digital first, but also need to be in the hospitality business. And there's never been a more interesting time for me as a restaurant owner, for you as restaurant owners, to see how is technology enabling us to provide better hospitality, but also do things like go from quick service to full service, or from our case, from full service to quick service. So many shifts are happening in so many different concepts. What I do see is that there will always be a need for human touch. People want to be taken care of. People want those memorable moments. How do you incorporate Toast, because I know you are Toast customers, how do you incorporate Toast into what you're building here as a live venue?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've actually recently pivoted again. Pivot became the most popular word in 2019.
Omaha and pivot.
Yeah, the keyword pivot, right? Omaha and pivot, there
So
you go.
one of the things we've done is we've incorporated the QR, or we
Order
call
and
it
pay.
order at the table.
Yep.
Which is, it's in some ways there's some other places that have been doing it, but it's definitely been a incredibly successful on main levels, and we're still kind of working out the kinks. We're currently doing full order at the table, but it's a semi-hybrid where we still have dedicated servers to each section.
Mm-hmm.
So they're able to monitor more tables than if it was full service. Then you maybe have 6 tables per server, where now one server can take on multiple tables, and it's been successful. We've seen some hurdles as far as certain people just don't want to use it. That's their big deal. So, we're a lot of discussion about pivoting again, but like still sticking mostly with QR, but then maybe having some full service tables for those people that don't don't want to use the QR. So there's been a lot of positive, including we can take a huge walk-in with no problem, because they're doing all the ordering, so it takes the stress off the server, and so that's been a huge benefit to it. But I say the biggest hurdle is just people, like, it's people sometimes are scared of things that are new.
Yeah.
You can probably add to that.
Yeah, and early on we started off with a QR for our menu, and we use a program or an application called Sprouter.
Okay.
And Sprouter allows you to create QR code and kind of one splash page. We're able to do our menu, make a reservation, order online, upcoming events, any announcements. So people could just hit their QR and it would pull it all up on their phone. So it eliminated, kind of
So it's a
classic
mobile first website.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
multiple landing pages. If you do choose to go to the Toast tab, it'll take you to the ordering, but you could also book events. Is that how it works?
For this particular one, before we did order at the table, it was a separate QR that brought you to a landing page that you could see drink menu, food menu,
But you couldn't
live
order from
events. You couldn't order from it. We weren't doing that at the time. We were still doing full service. And then we transitioned to the order at the table. Again, for us, it was, let's start out with the ability for somebody to get comfortable with taking a picture and seeing the menu.
Yep.
Before we're saying, hey, take a picture, look at the menu, order your food again, here are your drinks, here are your drink options, and the whole thing. So for us, it was kind of a stepping in process. And to Mark's point, we're continuing to find, like, what is that next stepping in point? Because technology is great, but if it's beyond what people are interested in, comfortable with, then it doesn't mean anything, right?
Yeah.
And for us, too, interestingly enough, from day one, we were looking to, in a testament to our venue manager, Ryan, we were looking for a server that was a bartender that could clean and cook and do dishes and the whole thing, right? We're looking for the all in. And then as we transitioned to the order at the table, we sat down as a team, we began to realize that, well, that's not the person we need, actually.
Correct.
We need the person who's super comfortable with technology.
Yeah.
We need, hey, I'm your granddaughter, and I'm going to teach you how to use this thing, and it's called an order at the table system, and I'm super comfortable with it, right? And that's the where we began to build and realize, like, it's not only technology, but it's the technology of who do you need to help deliver that technology.
Yeah.
And it's a totally different person now. And now we have a mix of the younger kids who are super tech savvy in the whole thing, and the traditional server full service. And the blend of those two worlds, we've just begun to see it, but it's like, it's something that we would have never, we have a lot of things to be that disappointed with and hurt with and all those things about the pandemic, and we have a lot of things to be super thankful for.
Yeah.
And honestly, this is one. Running a more efficient business is another. Where we are in hospitality now is nowhere where we'd be pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
And I think the industry, has a lot of difficult challenges, but where we are now with it is a benefit because of it. So.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting for us thinking of digital hospitality, thinking of this new job code, because we're hiring for hospitality, and what used to be a traditional position for a host or a traditional position for a server or even a bartender or expo or even heart of the house. Technology is enabling us now, when someone walks in to our restaurant, to your restaurant, they have a point of sale in their pocket.
Right.
So why are we complicating that process by forcing them to wait for a server? I mean, I went to a restaurant that we love in our neighborhood in East Lake. We went out to eat. Beautiful restaurant. They do a phenomenal job, great food. We got seated. It took 10 minutes for the server to come to us. There was a QR code on the table. The QR code went to a PDF menu. That PDF menu I could not order from. Mm-hmm. I could not place drink order from. I could not order the appetizers. I couldn't order my kids' meal. If they had Toast Order and Pay or something similar, mm-hmm. I would have been able to, it wouldn't have mattered that it took the server that long. Right. And it's these moments where I go to SoFi Stadium where the Chargers play and the Rams play, and realized that literally 70,000 people are getting into a stadium with no paper ticket. You're literally required to download a ticket onto your phone.
Right.
So it's like the amount of challenges that they have getting that many people into a stadium, and they're cashless. So it's like the pandemic has accelerated so much of what we as hospitality people at heart that we've feared. It's still going to be a blend though. And it's going to be, how do you manage the blend in each of your communities, in each of your concepts? Because your concept is different than another person's concept. What drove you guys to open up My Yard Live? Tell us the Chuck E. Cheese story.
Well, the Chuck E. Cheese story is
Because you love Chuck E. Cheese.
Because
you
you
wanted to
love
build something just like Chuck E. Cheese. Where's
exactly.
the ball pit?
Yeah, well, it's funny when we built our business plan, we actually had a picture of Chuck E. Cheese on one of the paragraphs, as in this is not where we're going.
Yeah.
We're like
The kid, I think the kid was crying, right?
Yeah, the kid was
It was
crying,
Chuck
and
E.
Chucky was holding
Cheese,
him.
and Chuck E. Cheese is holding him, and the kid's like, we had that. In our
Yeah.
mind.
Well, it's funny when we keep talking about pivoting and efficiency and all that. So Jamie and I originally came from the festival production world. We actually own the largest solar-powered soundstage and lighting company in the country. So we were working with the Vans Warped Tour, New Belgium Brewing's Tour de Fat, Outside Lands, goes on and on. But that being said, in that world, you're constantly pivoting. You have to pivot on the fly
Yep.
because the show must go on, I say. And so we were kind of in that mind frame of changing things on the fly. So when the pandemic hit, it was kind of in our nature to understand how to move quickly and change quickly and pivot with what's going on with the current state of affairs. And also the other piece of that too is that we were doing all these festivals. We were doing the pizza fests of the world, the wine and cheese festivals, the beer festivals, and in doing that, we were seeing that more families were wanting to integrate into these festivals, and quite often what you saw was a pen that was the beer garden with a dad or a mom on one side of the fence while the other parent was with their kid on the
Yes.
other side of the fence, separated, and so they couldn't enjoy that world together, So Jamie and I, that's kind of when the light bulb went off. Like, let's do something brick and mortar that kind of encompasses that festival spirit, bringing people together, live music, good food, good beverages, and that's kind of how it evolved, I'd say.
So was it brewery first, food first, live events first? Was it the blend?
I think it was the blend. I mean, this was all. Jamie's talking about when we
Because
sat down at my
this is
son.
like significant whiteboarding stuff.
Yeah.
Where you're like,
that's
you
what
have
it was.
you have a legitimate business.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're doing incredible work, but you're also becoming family men, right?
Yeah,
So you're
exactly.
having your family, and you realize, I don't want to travel. I'm guessing, I'm putting words in your mouth, but I'm guessing
Yeah.
your travel schedule is very heavy.
No, and that's 100%. I mean, you nailed it when you mentioned family, because basically, yeah, Jamie was becoming a father. I was already 4 kids, and so it was the underlying problem was Friday night rolls around. I asked my my kids, where do you guys want to go? And I have 4 kids give me 4 different answers, and it's a knockdown, drag-out fight of where we're going to go.
Your wife doesn't get a vote? What happens?
No, it's always the kids. It's always the kids. Yeah, always the kids. So
Always the
yeah,
kids.
so
Okay,
that
fair
was
enough.
another. Yeah, you nailed it on the head. So that was another piece for us that really made sense. The family thing is like, where can we, what space can we create that everyone's going to be happy?
Yeah.
Mom and dad can get a nice cocktail or a good beer. The food is great, and the kids are having a great time. The funny story is I had some friends come with their 2 kids.
Yeah.
And they were sitting at a table, and they grabbed me and they're like, you know what? I just got to tell you something. It's almost like this was date night. We didn't see our kids the entire time.
Right?
They're at the playground or playing
course.
video games.
Yeah.
So I know you have more to add. So.
No, I mean, to that point, I mean, we were in the event production space, so we were.
So you sold the company?
We did. We sold the company, sold the equipment, turned around.
So you had to sell this to your wives.
Well, so interestingly enough, so we were traveling, working late nights, early mornings, and the whole thing. And part of it was, the idea of having this lifestyle kind of adjustment, right? And then we got in the midst of opening up 17,000 square feet, and we were working 7 days a week, 14 hours a day, and the whole thing. So that piece of it didn't work out as well as we hoped. But
Sure.
and while we were getting there pre-pandemic and really getting things dialed, the pandemic obviously turned things upside down again. But the idea of being able to have the families here, other families here, employees' birthdays, employees' families, friends of friends, and co-workers of my wife throwing their daughters' parties here and the whole thing. So all of it, eventually kind of came together. But it was live events, community center, first and foremost. And then we were like, well, how does that keep the doors open? And so we talked about, the eatery, and really, as I mentioned earlier, our goal of getting to a scratch kitchen, because, this idea of walking into, your friend's house, fantasy backyard, that whole thing. And what does that mean? Well, that doesn't mean buying frozen products and turning it around, flipping burgers for a profit. That doesn't mean that. That means, how can we get as close to Mark's mom's kitchen, your mom's kitchen, my mom's kitchen as absolutely possible? And for us, that was a scratch kitchen. So now we are a scratch kitchen, everything except our breads that we get delivered daily. So, and then the other side of it, we're obviously huge beer fans. So it was like, for us, it was an obvious move into, well, home brewer, make your beer, garage, the whole deal, and how do we incorporate that? So the eatery and the brewery part were just an obvious part of the overall project.
One of the things that I love about your story is the city of San Marcos and how you guys negotiated and worked with them to form this partnership. Can you guys talk about how that came to fruition and why this ultimately was the perfect place for flagship number one?
Yeah, well, I mean, we were looking all over San Diego County, and when this location was presented to us, initially we didn't even know that the city of San Marcos owns the building.
Yeah.
They're a very progressive city. They're in the, not a lot of cities are in the real estate game, but San Marcos is. And so with that, working with them, they were great to work with. I mean, the red tape, there's red tape with when you're building anything, but the red tape was thinner with them. You could put it that way. And they've been so supportive, and even working through us through the pandemic, making sure that that we're still here when this thing moves on.
Yeah, and I think for them, they had options to put in a boll weevil and whatever.
Hotel,
a boll weevil, that kind of thing. And they had visions for this space, and their visions aligned with what our visions and what we were trying to kind of pitch and sell and build. And Tess Sangster, who is the director of business community development in San Marcos, was on the forefront of that in helping us put together that story, put together the vision, and really, I would say sell it to the city, but it never felt like a sell. It always felt like a communication, a conversation of mutual aligning visions for what they wanted in this space, for their developing demographic around here. And I worked years ago in housing here. My first job in California was based out of San Marcos. So when our investor, future investor, brought us here and said, "I think I have the space for you," I was like, "Man, I've worked in San Marcos. I know what it's all about." And he's like, "You don't know what it's about now." Mm-hmm. And he drove us around, and I did not know what it was about. And they've done an amazing thing here in developing community and neighborhoods and that whole thing. And it just worked perfectly for Meyer Live, and has worked perfectly.
I think that the other two with Mayor Rebecca Jones, is that her vision's always been that San Marcos become a destination location. And so for us, when we heard that, it's like, well, let's be early adopters in that vision for sure. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the, and I think also when we were selling them on us, I think we used the term, we're a community space that happens to have a restaurant and a brewery. that's what we want to do first. So a lot of what we do is we do a lot of give back events, whether it's dine outs with the schools or local nonprofits. So that was, all those things aligned with what they were looking for. I almost feel like they said that our vision was their vision, but our vision on steroids, or their vision on steroids or something. So.
Rebecca Mayer-Jones is very impressive. We met with her. We were looking at the former Phil's space as we're looking at expanding. People that listen to this podcast, they might have a dream. They might want to open up a venue. They might want to open up a restaurant. They might want to open up any type of business. They have to raise capital. What tips do you have for selling that vision, doing that storytelling of what you guys actually did? What advice do you have?
Well, first, put a plan in place, a detailed plan in place. And then, the biggest piece of advice is just taking no for no no's or in our world, and just really believing in what we were creating. I don't feel like there was ever a time where Jamie and I were thinking, I don't think this is going to happen, right? Like, we felt, for some reason, there was just a confidence going on about we're going to make this happen.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think you get a lot of no's. You get a lot of business meetings, like we sat down with.
James said no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, you get a lot of business meetings where we're like,
Jimmy said
some
no.
people said we
nice
were crazy.
to meet you.
Yeah, some people said we were crazy.
Did I call you? I don't think I called you crazy.
You might have.
I don't know. I might have.
But
it was all honest feedback.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect. It was a perfect example of the type of meeting that we took hundreds of times. I don't even know.
Yeah.
And you sit down, you get all excited, and somebody introduces you, and they sound like they're interested, and you pitch the vision, and they're like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
So, I think at the core, though, and we just had a meeting yesterday talking about it, and we try and bring it up as much as we can. And again, over the course of the last 2 years and everything that's transpired, we just kept talking about, like, what's our purpose and what's our vision and why are we here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're not here to flip burgers for profit. We're not here to just sell beers for cheap money. Like, that's not why we opened this space. Like, why did we open this space? And I think, to answer your question, it's having an authentic, unique vision and story. And honestly, we had that, and it wasn't on purpose. We kind of fell into it by what our lifestyles were, where we were, and what we were doing, and the whole thing. But we fell into this unique, authentic message and story and vision that spoke to people. And I used to work in nonprofits, and fundraising in nonprofits is tough because you have something specific that you're like kind of walking into trying to sell, right? And there's a lot of great causes out there, right? Special Olympics, special needs, cancer, like all these things. There's a lot of great causes. But what makes you different from everything else? And it's that unique, authentic vision. And thankfully, we had it. And I think it spoke to people like you, and even people that said no, said, fuck, you have a really great idea. It's not for me.
Yeah.
But you
I'll
have
be
a
there.
really, I'll be there. I'll bring my family there.
Yeah.
But for me, it's not, I'm not willing to invest in it. But thankfully, we had 27 people that
Amazing.
worked.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing. How many no's?
How many what?
How many no's?
God, who knows?
who knows how many? Man.
No, but fortunately, like our friends and family really did step up. We have some great partners definitely in the mix, including George McCarrow, who founded Ted's Montana Grill, and Freddie Bench, who founded Sweetwater Brewing Company. So that's kind of the core team, and those guys have just been invaluable with their knowledge of, of course, beer and knowledge of running restaurants. So we had some really good help, as far as really pushing this vision through, or taking it through to the end.
And I think that for me was like when you talk about the turning point of like, is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? I think, in my soul, I was like, hey, this is going to happen. It has to happen. It's going to happen. But you have those voices in your head, like any entrepreneur, any business person, you got, two sides And it's like, well, is it? Is it really? When is it going to happen? How is it going to happen? You know, in the meantime, how are you going to pay your bills? You know, all those things are going through your head. My turning point, I think, was twofold. One was George and Freddie being involved. I mean, you know, the things George and Freddie are doing throughout the country in their respective industries, hospitality, brewing, and the whole thing, and even beyond, event space and everything, is amazing. So the fact that they took time to fly out to California on their dime and check out this space and sit down with the city and talk to the city and talk to us, for, you know, Mark and I kind of turned this out. Maybe we do have something. Like, maybe this is like really serious here, and it's not only one, but it can be multiples. And that's when the vision became a little bigger and real. And the other thing was our contractor, our GC who did the whole space, Prevost Construction, Jamie
Did
Prevost.
phenomenal work.
Yeah.
Phenomenal work.
He's the one, it all tied together. So he's the one that introduced us to the space. He's also an investor, and he was also our GC. And those stories throughout what we've done have continued to grow. People's involvement, not only on the investment side, but also, and if I would, about a couple of our investors, but the testament to that is during the pandemic, we had people who were regulars that actually approached us to invest.
Yeah.
And we sat down with them and just were candid and said, this is not a good investment. Like,
Right.
You're in the middle of the pandemic and you're going to invest in a restaurant. Like, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money.
Correct.
And I don't want to turn down money, but at the same time, this is not a good idea. And we had a couple who were regulars. They have 2 kids, boy and a girl, and they were regulars. They moved out from the East Coast. They found us and they said, this is our space. We don't want this to go anywhere. And they ended up investing in us in the middle of the pandemic, and we told them not to.
Amazing.
So for us, that kind of almost reinvigorated us, made us more confident throughout the pandemic. Like, we are doing something more than just flipping burgers and selling beers. We're doing something for the community, and that's why we're here.
I mean, what's inspiring to me is seeing you guys on your journey and knowing the confidence from when I first met with you, because now that you say it, I knew from that meeting that, first of all, I didn't have money. All my money was up in Cali barbecue. So that was up to Jimmy if he was going to invest. But what I did know is that you guys were going to do it. Like, I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I could feel from how much conviction you had in your story and what you wanted to execute that would happen. And not only that we would continue a relationship down the line. You know, whether that was us coming up to support, whether that was us helping out, whether us having you on the podcast. Now I'm coming up here asking to, you know, have a family event here because I love the space so much. It's so important that anybody listening to this podcast understands that if you don't tell your story, you just don't know who's going to be listening. Mm-hmm. And people will tell you no. You have to get over the fact that they're going to tell you no, because as my mentor teaches me, if you were 25 no's away from what you wanted, how soon would you start asking? But we're all scared of the first no. We're all scared of the second no. I mean, you don't even know how many no's that they told you. The first time I listened to the podcast that you guys came on, and you said that's what kept you up at night, is you didn't know if you were going to be able to raise that amount of money.
Yeah.
Now
You're here. What's the next vision? What's the next vision for My Yard Life?
Well, I think just to go back a little bit, the no's, I mean, I think there's a benefit of being a short, chubby kid, and that is.
How many times you ask your wife out?
That is you got a lot of no's.
Yeah.
And so you know, you got some confidence from that. But no, the vision. You know, honestly, if you ask me pre-pandemic, what was the vision? You ask me now, what is the vision, right? So pre-pandemic, the vision was we wanted to replicate this in as many spaces as possible. Post-pandemic, the vision is we want to replicate this. But obviously, how do you replicate it in a post-pandemic world where venues are getting smaller?
Yep.
Hospitality is becoming different. and how does that mold, and how does that look, and how does that original vision kind of move towards where you are right now. So we're interested in replicating. We want to replicate, but more than ever, it needs to be in the right space, with the right community, with the right city, with the right partners.
Yeah.
And there's no more, I think, for anybody, there's no more, hey, I'm going to see if this works. Boom. I don't care if you're Cohen or whoever you are.
Yep.
Right? Noodles against the wall technique doesn't work in this environment. So strategically, it needs to be in those right spaces. And if it's not right, in a right fit, in a right mold, then we're going to wait. And we're going to continue to develop this as a sustainable, profitable business.
Yep.
And in the meantime, continue to look for those partners and for those spaces.
Yeah, and obviously also, come through with what we promise for our investors too.
Sure.
So that the first step to that is just really focusing on what we have here. And making sure that that at the end of the day we got past this crazy times, and here we are, and we're we really that's going back to the investors. The other piece of that too is that they've been more than supportive throughout these times. Like you get nervous that they're going to somehow completely ignore the fact that there's a pandemic going on, that we were shut down 6
They didn't
months
get
out
the
of
news.
2020.
Hey, you guys didn't get the news.
But everyone's just been so positive and saying, hey, how much they appreciate that we're still here.
Yeah.
And a lot of places around here,
Phil's is gone.
Yeah,
I mean,
Phil's
Barbecue
gone,
is a
Slater's
perfect
50/50.
example. Oh, really? They're
Urge.
gone?
Yeah,
Really?
like all I guess you would say are competitors, although we're a different space. They're no longer here.
Wow. So you guys are an award-winning brewery?
Yeah, actually, funny enough, through everything that's been going on, not one consistent, but the very few things that have been consistent has been our brewing program. Shaggy, our brewer, local guy, cut his teeth at Lost Abbey, was with Mason Ale Works for a number of years as their director of brewing, and decided to come over here and wanted to get his hands in more of kind of the creative piece of the brewing, or back to the creative piece of the brewing versus the production. And we won our first awards with a sour called Shagtastic Voyage, Voyage, and Red Rover, which is an amber, and that was the San Diego International. Red Rover was gold, at the San Diego International Beer Festival. And then just this past few months ago, won for our New Zealand IPA at the Great American Beer Festival.
Amazing.
Yeah, tough category.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, IPA is one of the hottest categories. So we won a bronze for that. So that was huge for us. And because of that, we picked up some distribution with Brown Bag Beverages. Again, something that changed. Originally, we were not interested in doing distribution at all pre-pandemic. And post-pandemic, it was like, well, hey, we're looking for revenue streams. This isn't going to be a bad thing. But like everything we've done, we've stepped into it, and we're strategic about it and wanted to find the right partner. And Susie over at Brown Bag Bev, and her team been great so far. So
That's awesome. Yeah. So tell me a little bit, we always talk about marketing and social. What's the program here at My Yard Live? On Instagram, at My Yard Live. What's the program? How do you get the word out?
Well, again, I think, we have all the traditional outlets. We do a little bit of Google ads and AdWords and all that good stuff as well. Do a little bit of traditional media. We have some things coming out more recently with a project that we're doing with one of our employees. James has been with us since literally the first day of training. James has special needs. He's has Down syndrome. Doesn't define him, but that's what he has. And his mom reached out to us early on and said, My son is super into beer. We're local. You guys are opening up. He lives with his wife around the corner in an apartment, and he'd love to sit down with you guys and see if it's a good fit. And we were totally all about it, being community based and just kind of our backgrounds and the whole thing. And he came in first day of training. He's been with us ever since through the whole pandemic and the whole thing. And we found out into it quite a bit that he's got 3 buddies of his. He's 35. He's got 3 buddies of his between 35 and 40 years old. They've known each other since they were like
8 or something.
7 or 8, and have stayed connected. And they bond around professional wrestling,
Awesome.
video games, and beer. And we've always wanted, with Shaggy and Mark, we've talked about give back beers.
Yeah.
What do we want to do? And nothing, there's a ton of great causes out there, but nothing's really ever stuck. And so then we started talking about, well, what can we do to kind of link in people here in the community? And we started talking about James and his buddies that love beer. And so we're creating an IPA. They named it, and it talking about branding, I think it's going to turn. Initially, when it started, it was 1 beer, and then we started to get the San Diego Union Tribune jumped on board, Fox 5 jumped on board. Susie with Brown Bag said, "I want to sell this outside," and the whole
Amazing.
thing. So
That's really
So
cool.
I think it's going to turn into a brand, not just a beer, but beer. This beer is called 4 Dudes Brew IPA because they're the dude group. They call themselves the dudes, the 4 dudes.
That's great.
So 4 Dudes Brew, they named it. They came out to the venue, and Shaggy made hop tea, warm water with hops, and we all smelt it, and they smelt it. So they picked all the hops, decided the beer, named the beer. And so what they wanted to do is create a beer that they could then take some of the funds from and reinvest it into the community. And so $1 from every pint sold everywhere. So no matter if it's a pint you buy here or a pint you buy at Cali Comfort, which I hope you'll jump on
Yes,
board with us.
absolutely.
Perfect. Nailed it.
Look at that.
See?
If
got it on tape.
you don't ask for the sale, you don't get it.
Done.
See, that's a good tip right there.
So-
It's even better if you ask on camera.
On camera.
On camera is even better. Yes, 100%.
So $1 from
That's an old trick. That's a radio trick.
every pint sold is going to go into a kitty, and that money, which will total, if everything works out, depending on the yield and the whole thing, might total up to about $4,000.
Amazing.
Will go into a kitty, and they'll be able to invest it and contribute it to causes and things that they're interested in. And one of the causes that they're doing is art gallery called Revision. And Revision is based in Hillcrest, it's nonprofit. And what Revision does, which is, it's super cool and brings everything together, is they actually hire artists with special needs. And those special needs artists are contracted to do art and sell their art out of the gallery.
I love it.
And so we're going to donate, the guys are going to donate there to that nonprofit. And that nonprofit has one of the special needs artists developing the logo and the brand for the beer. So it's like everything kind of came together in the whole thing. So like I said earlier, initially we're saying, oh, it's just 1 beer, it's an IPA, let's do it, it's a cool thing. And then all this stuff's coming together, and we sat down with the parents and the guys, and we're like, we think this might have some more legs than just the beer. And so we'll see where it goes, but that's the vision behind it. And James and his buddies are doing a phenomenal job. They came in 2 Saturdays ago with Shaggy and did the whole brewing process. Worked, moved barrels, raked out grain, did the whole
cool.
thing. And we have a release party. I don't know when this is going to go live, but we have a release party this Friday. Starts at 5:30. We got a band. Revision's going to bring some of the artists up. They're going to display some of the art, release our logo or versions of the logo for the beer, for the 4 Dudes Brew. The guys will be here talking about the brewing process, talking about the beer, families, and the whole thing. And it's just talking about goosebumps. Yeah. It's just brought, for him to be there on our first training day and his mom to reach out they've become family and friends, and all of the guys and their parents have become family and friends too. So it's been super cool.
Hopefully you guys understand how deep the community is and how deep family is. I appreciate your guys' leadership, your vision. I can't wait to see what you guys continue to do. You've got an incredible brand that I know is going to be needed in lots of neighborhoods, not just here in San Diego County, but like you said, sustainability. We're looking at things that what works now, we might have to pivot again come a year,
Yeah.
but what will always work into the future is hospitality and community, and what you guys have created here is just absolutely incredible. We're going to put links to the show notes. Everything that we talked about today. Hopefully we'll get you guys on Clubhouse every Friday at 10 a.m. We do a Clubhouse call, Digital Hospitality. So we get a bunch of people from all over the globe to talk about the episode. We'll have you guys on the Clubhouse app. If you guys are listening, please join us. Be sure to reach out. You can DM me at any time at Sean P. Walchef. Follow My Yard Live on all the social handles, and stay curious, get involved, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Thank you guys.
Yeah,
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
And this could be B-roll, but
Yeah.
since it worked before, before we announced that we're going to open the spot, we sat down with you
Yes.
and said it on tape. So I'm going to say it on tape again, that hopefully moving forward in the next 2 years, we're going to be opening a spot in East Lake.
Yes.
In partnership with
Now
Cali
we're talking.
Comfort.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
So now it's on
See,
tape.
no, now we're talking. We're not cutting this either. We're not even cutting this because we've already had conversations. This is the power of podcasts. It's the power of community. It's the power of why I feel passionate about what we're doing, is that a rising tide lifts all ships. And a rising tide also lifts all boats. My best friend, Jack Harris, who I literally owe everything to, he's been just an incredible supporter of this podcast, of our business, of my family. But he explained to me one time the difference between a boat and a ship. Do you guys know what the difference is?
A boat can go on a ship.
You are absolutely correct. A boat can go on a ship cannot go on a boat. So we say a rising tide lifts all ships, and we say that because we're recruiting other ships. We're trying to find other like-minded people that are crazy as fuck like we are, that are crazy as fuck like you are, but that have the heart to do the right thing and to build the things for the community in hospitality, and we couldn't be more excited to do it. So East Lake, we're coming for you. You heard it here first on this
2023
podcast,
East Lake.
documenting this journey.
One last comment. I think that we both would like to thank our wives for putting up with us.
Yes, 100%. Thank you, Rosita. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Mila.
Stacey.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
to
you, Esther.
Correct. Without the wives, we would have nothing. So yeah, we appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Stay curious, get involved, and don't be afraid to come over here and join us for a party over at My Yard Live, San Marcos.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate you guys. Yep.
Appreciate it.
Boom.
Yeah.